Hello good people, I'm Dmitry and I could not be happier with my custom water-cooled machine. This thing is an absolute beast and it's been running flawlessly for the past few months. You can check out the full experience and the two-part series on how this thing was built right over here. But I have a little bit of an issue. There's something inside the loop. It is not organic. Luckily it's not growing and taking over, but I don't know what to do. This is exactly the reason why I avoided going into custom water cooling for so long, because the eventual maintenance, it creeps up. It creeps up. So the first issues arose when I was traveling away for 2 weeks, and when I came back to the office, I turned the machine on and I noticed these little particles, white particles were flowing through the loop. Initially, I thought they were just bubbles and something that accumulated while the system was idle. But no, there were actual particles flowing through, and then I noticed something really strange, and that those particles were really fine and started to rise up to the top of the reservoir and actually almost distribute themselves throughout the loop on the GPU block, on the CPU block, and at the bottom of the reservoir as well. I was even considering taking a sample and bringing it to a biology lab, but I realized that this thing is not organic. So in this video, let's talk to a few experts on what to do when these things happen, and I'll guide you through my journey of draining my very first water-cooled system, or at least that is this hardcore, and replacing the GPU block because that thing is nasty.
Take your gaming experience to the elite level with Viewsonic XG27 series. Bridging the gap between gamers and people who appreciate color accuracy, the XG27 QG offers stunning visuals with 165Hz 1440p nano IPS panel and a G-Sync module. Meanwhile, the XG270 comes with a blazing fast 1080p 240Hz display, along with the Pure XB blur reduction certified by Blurbusters, resulting in crystal clear visuals in fast-moving objects, making it the ultimate gaming monitor. Both also come with RGB ambient lighting and a flexible headphone stand. Learn more down below.
I would like to outsource some opinions on what is happening inside my loop. Let's call my friend Ali from Optimo Tech to see what he has to say. He has not seen what's happening in the GPU block and the CPU block. I just want to get his live reaction to why most people probably don't want to be water cooling in the first place. So let's give him a call. Yo, what's up, man?
Not much, man. What's going on?
Good, good, good. So the GPU block should not be.
Oh, I see it. Yeah.
Should not be that color. It has this yellow tint.
Yeah, I just noticed that. Okay.
And there's like.
Damn, dude, what's going on there?
Look at this.
So when I was first looking at this, I thought this was not part of the loop. I thought that was part of the block, like the plate. But damn.
Have you seen anything like it? Like, this is not organic. This isn't something that's growing inside of it. It's more like fine particles that have settled their way throughout the block, like at the bottom here.
I definitely haven't seen anything like that, man. Honestly, if it's just like really fine particles, you might not have to pull the block apart or anything. See how you go just flushing it. Good luck, man. Hopefully you don't have to pull the whole thing apart, because that's going to be a nightmare.
Let's call Jay, see if he can help. You ready to see this nastiness, and let me know what you think? So you can see some discoloration happening. There's a bit of yellow right here. There's a bit of white underneath. And the interesting part is that it's not actually part of the loop where the water goes. It's like underneath the transparent piece. So
yeah, you'll experience that in almost every block.
Okay.
Were you using soft tubing?
No, hard tubing.
What happens there is the only O-rings that exist, as you can see, are kind of around the exterior. So you've got the part that's coming down right there. So that's got O-rings to keep it within its channel, right? Mm-hmm. And then underneath the main block, which is probably covered by that metal, the black metal piece, there's an O-ring that goes all the way around the exterior. Mm-hmm. But what happens is you only have acrylic touching the actual metal, and so it doesn't make a really good seal. And what you're getting through there is just some of the like residue that is pretty much a part of every fluid except distilled water. Over the temperature changes, when the block gets warm from the load, and you'll get some expansion and some contraction of the plastic and the metal, which it causes it to eventually work its way up in there. Every block I've ever done has had that sort of a residue. But what's interesting is the way yours is kind of a yellowy color. That's why I asked if it was soft tubing, because the soft tubing has plasticizer in it. That block's holding up really well, though. Actually, if you want to know the truth, that's one of the cleaner messes, if you will, that someone has showed me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people realize that that's going to happen on every block that has a acrylic top like that. Is that kind of buildup that happens between the layers. And if you disassembled that block, it would just wipe off with a damp paper towel and detergent. It wouldn't even need any scrubbing. Opening the blocks is a must. Because they're easy enough, right? They're just Allen keys, and usually they come apart really easily. You got to clean those channels out, because if you leave any of that in there, it just gives another place for stuff to start catching and building up again. And then I'll also do another step that a lot of people tend to forget about, which is actually disassembling your fittings and cleaning those out too, because you'll start to get buildup inside the actual fitting nozzle itself. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of people tend to forget about that, but it's another place where you're switching materials. You're going from either a PETG or an acrylic tube into a nickel-plated fitting into then copper or something, and you get all those materials near each other. You know, reactions happen.
I'm surprised at how quickly you were able to detect what the issue was, and like even discoloration and what it's caused by. So I appreciate your insight, man. Thanks so much.
There's a lot of people that are going to say water cooling is totally unnecessary and not worth it, and that's very true for many people. But it's kind of like me. Once you go down that rabbit hole and it becomes a hobby, it's just part of it, you know?
Yeah.
And it becomes kind of a fun game to see how long can I get away with this without necessarily doing it all the exact way of cleaning it all. You kind of learn which brands you can get away with and which brands you can't. All right, Dimitri, glad I could help.
All right. Thanks, Jay. Have a good one, man.
Yep. You too.
And so with everything I needed to know, let's tear down the system. But since it's my main, I transferred all current projects to an SSD, just in case. This is the drain port, by the way, conveniently located at the bottom of the case. And now that the system is drained, let's fill it up with distilled water. Here you can clearly see what Jay was talking about, the part where liquid and particles go through, and as distilled water rushes through the block, it's actually cleaning up some of that buildup, which is nice. But in doing so, the CPU block actually got clogged up even more. Alright, so the new GPU block is installed. Still incredibly impressed with how easy that was, both from ASUS side and Corsair side, and it's looking super clean. I love that look. But now it's time to take out the CPU block and clean it, because apparently it's actually quite easy to disassemble it, clean it with a toothbrush and some distilled water, and put it back together. And there's only one way to put it back together, so there shouldn't be any issues of me messing that up. The good thing is that I can leave some of the tubes in place attached to the radiators and just take out the CPU block by itself, which makes reinstallation of everything back into the case much easier. This also gives me an opportunity to dust it, clean everything. Yeah, this is actually quite fun. Now it's time to take out the CPU block and see what's the damage. And this block doesn't actually have full TR coverage, just something I wanted to point out, despite me having amazing temperatures. Unfortunately, the state of the CPU block is worse than I thought, so let's give it a good clean with a toothbrush inside a distilled water bath. I use a white plate intentionally just to show you how much residue has come off. It's looking much better, so let's move on to the rest of the block that you can also disassemble, and here we finally see some of the darker and larger particles that were present inside the GPU block as well. I worked on the base plate some more while the rest of the block was air drying, and then it was time to piece everything back together with a brand new GPU block and a properly cleaned CPU block. no leaks. That's a good sign. The GPU block is almost filled. The CPU block is about halfway there. All right. We have ourselves a working system once again. All right, so now let's talk to Hans Peter, the gentleman who helped me build this thing. Now, what is your best guess on like why this happened?
So I think if I have to do one guess, it would be that the coolant reacted with the radiators. Like either the radiators might not have been properly cleaned, the ones that you got, or the coolant has been from a bad batch or something. But it's so hard to tell because random stuff will just happen like this. That was quite substantial, the amount of residue that was in yours. Like when you first mentioned it, I thought that it was just a slight film on the surface, but after seeing the pictures, that was a lot of white stuff on there. So I was quite surprised because I've actually only seen it in, I think, 1 or 2 builds. One which I made here at home with some very old and some of the first samples that we got of coolant and radiators. It's one of the things about water cooling that sometimes stuff like this will just happen. It won't be often, but you might just be unlucky and run into something like this. I've tried some weird stuff with water cooling, like things that should never supposed to happen, like clear cooling turning purple, and yeah, it's way better now than it was 5 or 6 years ago, because like at that time things were a bit more sketchy. But luckily today we do have some better parts, and problems like these are way less common.
Well, thanks HP for your contribution, and yeah, maybe look out for more messages from me when I need more help.
Dude, anytime.
So in the end, the system is looking like day one. Clean blocks, no dust anywhere. Actually, quite surprised at how little dust there was in there. It is quite eye-opening to see what type of maintenance is involved when it comes to cleaning the blocks and discovering any issues. And the good thing is that no temperature was affected and cooling was perfectly fine, even with the clogging on the CPU block and all those particles inside the GPU block.
Yeah, I think that's the thing a lot of people kind of underestimate, is the amount of initial drainings you have to do to get all of that reaction to kind of stop happening. And oxidation is what I was explaining, some of the chemical reaction that happens, or the metallurgy reaction that happens between copper and you know, liquids. And so it's always going to be there. To what extent is really going to depend on just how neutral you can get the pH balance of your system. One
of my rule of thumbs is that I'll only touch if I need to change something, or if I can see something is wrong. So if temperature suddenly starts to get real bad, or something like the thing that was in your loop happens. But you can say that what happened to your loop didn't affect temperatures at all. It was only visual.
So I hope you found all the conversations with our guests helpful. And if you're in a position of building a water cooling system, keep in mind about what could happen with the blocks, especially if they're visible because of all the alloys and the liquids and the interactions between everything that is inside of it. I'm hoping the system will last me for another year or so. It's been an absolute pleasure of using it for editing. And so yeah, I hope you found this video helpful. Make sure to check out this other relevant content. Subscribe for more. I'm Dmitry, and you good people have a good rest of whatever day it is you're watching this on. All right, ciao.